The Coventry Canal was intended to form part of James Brindley's Grand Cross, an ambitious scheme to provide a Trans-Britain waterways infrastructure linking our major natural rivers. It was promoted by two colliery owners, John Parrott and Richard Newdigate. Their primary aim was to provide a coal corridor from their mines at Bedworth into Coventry. In this, they were entirely successful, and cheap coal was being delivered to Coventry by canal in the year following the 1768 Enabling Act. By the time the canal reached Atherstone in 1771, all the authorised capital had been spent, and Brindley was sacked. It was to be another 20 years before his Grand Cross was completed. The Coventry Canal Company couldn't agree terms with the contemporary Oxford Canal, and so for 25 years the two canals ran side by side for about a mile to Longford, rather than form a junction at Hawkesbury. The Coventry Canal didn't reach Fazeley until 1790, by which time the Birmingham Canal Company had already built the Birmingham and Fazeley Canal along the proposed line of the Coventry to Whittington. At about the same time, the Grand Junction Canal Company had built a spur from its main line at Fradley to meet it. Brindley's Grand Cross was complete at last. Fradley is where our journey begins. This tiny, insignificant village was once at the very heart of our transport infrastructure and assumed enormous importance relative to its size. Today, the elegant Georgian waterfront attracts large numbers of artists and photographers. We turn into that spur built by the Grand Junction Canal off the most southerly point of what is now known as the Trent and Mersey Canal. The first bridge is a swing footbridge. It's helpfully operated for us by a young boater patiently waiting to set off on holiday. The first few hundred yards are taken up with more or less permanent moorings. This is an ideal spot in which to moor with journey possibilities in every direction. Many people use the Coventry just as it was originally intended, as a through route between the north and the south. But British Waterways would very much like to see more people coming to the Coventry Canal as a holiday destination in its own right. And so they should. In spite of its position in the West Midlands, 80% of the Coventry and Ashby Canal is pleasant and rural. And yet, you're never very far away from civilization and things to do if it rains. All the way along the canal, people living on its banks take an obvious interest in it. The canal passes Lichfield Aerodrome, a wartime bomber base. It's reputed to have a headless ghost dressed in a flying suit. The Lichfield pumping station is for tap water, and nothing whatsoever to do with the canal. The Romans built two main arterial roads across Staffordshire, Watling Street and this one, now part of the A38 trunk road, Reichnild Street. Street A Wharf is a busy boatyard and marina with all the services you'd expect. It was once the main wharf serving Lichfield. It's surprising that the canal didn't pass closer to that great cathedral city. The Plough Inn at Huddlesford is at the site of the junction with the remains of the eastern end of the Wiley and Essington Canal, or Curly-Wurley as it's better known. The last half mile is still navigable and used for private moorings.